Welcome back to another edition of Summer is Coming. I'm your host, Tiny Grimes, and as always, I'm joined by Neil, the real deal. How you doing, Neil?
I'm doing pretty great. How are you, Tiny?
I'm not too bad, actually. I have not been able to make a store championship yet. I haven't been at any cool tournaments, but Neil, I hear there wasn't just a tournament this past weekend, but there was a tournament of tournaments beyond a store championship, beyond a world championship. It was the
Thrones War. Yeah.
Not only that, Neil, I hear you were a king and got to draft your own team. That's so fun.
I was. For those of you who might not be familiar with Thrones War, it's this.
Wait. If you're not
cool...
familiar, just stop. Just turn it off. You don't deserve to hear the rest of this. Go ahead, Neil.
No, come on. The people need to know. People need to know how amazing Thrones War is. It's this weekend of games, actually a weekend at Ryan's, hence the war, where everyone in the Southern California meta travels down to San Diego area and does a weekend of playing Game of Thrones at Ryan Jones' former first edition world champion's house. And it's not just a regular tournament, because each year there's this whole build-up where different people who've done well in tournaments the past year get elected as the kings. And then these kings draft what faction their team is going to play and what players are going to be in their faction. Wow. And it's this really cool way of making the tournament matter for everyone from the best players to the newest players, because you're still really rooting for your team and your faction.
It's fantasy football style too, which is really fun. So it's an auction and like just a little bit of peek behind the curtain. It's like, all right, John Bruno's up and he hasn't been playing a lot of 2.0. How much you want to spend on him?
Answer, so it's really fun. A lot.
Yeah, he still went for a lot. And you know what? Crown of Gold just owned his face on the day.
It did, yeah. It unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for me, did.
That'll be a whole nother episode, just Crown of Gold, go. What are your thoughts? All right, so continue. How did your team do, by the way?
Huh?
How'd your team do at this event?
Well, I was lucky enough in the draft to be one of the kings because I had done so well at Worlds this past year.
Did you?
I did pretty well.
That's weird. I didn't hear about that.
And so I was able to also spend most of my auction money to get my favorite faction and play Targaryen, which was exactly what I wanted, and picked up my friend Corey from my team and some other great guys I didn't know, but turned out to be super nice and good. And so we went there and we dominated.
Nice.
That's not entirely true. We didn't dominate, but Targaryen did win barely the overall team competition. We ended up with, I think, 15 wins as a team.
While half your people in the cut? Is that what you did also?
Yeah, two of our players, myself and Corey, were both made the top 8 cut. I went 4-1 in the Swiss. Corey went undefeated in the Swiss.
Nice.
And in the cut, I lost my first round to Night's Watch. Then Corey continued and only lost in the finals to a dirty Lannister.
Yeah, that always makes you feel bad.
It really does. But Targ carried the day. We returned the 7 kingdoms to the rightful Targaryen line.
Cool.
So I feel very good about it. And it was a ton of fun. 32 people, 4 people a team for the 8 different houses, all battling it out over the course of one day. It was an epic tournament.
The most important question, though, for me, is I saw Lannister dressed up in some really cool Lannister gear. I can only assume that you dressed in a nice dress like Dany and then made all of your minions dress in dragon costumes. Is that what happened?
No, I wasn't wearing a dress like Dany. I was from like the end of the first season when it's just her dragons covering her.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. And then was Corey Khal Drogo and he just rode you down? Is that what happened? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good. No, it was very cool that the Lannister team had a lot of really fun flavor and role playing to their games, or they dressed up and they had just mountains of like dollar store gold coins that they would throw everywhere and just say how even if they weren't doing well, at least they're still rich.
Yeah, I guess I heard every time they played a treachery, they would yell, "Treachery!"
Yeah, and they had little fans like Cersei's fan in the card art that said treachery on them.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
they really stepped up the game to a whole new level of bringing the flavor. So I'm looking forward to next year and already plotting what kind of thematic things I might be able to bring to a team.
Well, that sounds fun. And I will say this. It's a little surprising that Lannister didn't win the event. I mean, they're supposedly a top house. They had Chris Imrahal, one of the best players in SoCal, and the guy who won the tournament, Kevin, is a really good new player from a top player from other games, and they had a really strong team, and they really didn't do that well overall. It's kind of surprising.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why that is. I played 2 Lannisters on the day. I lost my first round to Kevin, the eventual champion, and I won my 3rd round against another one of the teammates. It might have been a combination of bad luck or bad matchups, or
Yeah.
I don't know if all of the players were super familiar with Lannister. I know it was interesting since some of the players are just drafted onto whatever faction team. They're like,
Right.
I've been spending all of my time playing, Greyjoy, and now you're asking me to play this other faction. I don't really know how to do that.
The nice thing with Lannister, though, is if you're going to play a faction you've never played before, being able to just be like, all right, so I got endless money, I got treachery, I got all the best cards in the game. I think I'm going to be all right here, actually. I think I'll be okay.
I guess. I still
works.
can't quite get Lannister to work for me personally, but that's another story.
Yeah, I won't ridicule you at all.
The one other fun
you're the real
thing
deal.
at Thrones War, or there are many fun things, but one other thing that I want to mention really briefly was I also got to participate in a 1st edition draft.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it was really interesting. I never gotten to draft 1st edition before, though I played it. And so it was very odd to sort of switch gears and go back to some of the 1st edition mechanics and cost curve.
Yeah.
And you know what?
What?
I never want to play it again.
Really? That's funny.
I'm so happy with 2nd edition. I just personally get it way better. It's probably doesn't help that all of those guys were top caliber 1st edition players, and it was easy for them to, I think, slip back into that. But yeah, I don't miss 1st edition at all.
It is really interesting how you had incredibly limited success in 1st edition. Admittedly, with little experience, right? It's not like you put in all of this time and just sucked at it, but it was like you just didn't put in a ton of time. You never really had any good results. We shift to 2.0, and right out of the gate, you've been very successful. So that's been cool to watch that transition and development with you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, well, Thrones War is awesome. But you know what is even more awesome than cool tournaments, Neil?
What?
New packs!
Yeah!
So we got a new pack. This episode will probably go out before the street date. So
Really? Wow.
the actual graphics are kind of bad. What I'm doing is I'm just taking Board Game Geek. Somebody scanned in their pack. It's not well divided. It's just a bunch of cards, and we're just going to go with the best that we've got here, which is admittedly less than perfect, but we're going to be okay with that.
Let's do it.
All right, so I'm just going to go in the order that they are posted over here. So this may not be the order they're released, but that's okay. So let's start with Sir Roderick Castle. He's a 6-cost military power Stark Knight. No attachments except weapon. Take that, Crown of Gold. Actually, is Crown of Gold a weapon? It's not, is it?
No.
Okay.
It's an item.
It is used like a weapon. But his cool thing is his ability that when he's attacking in a military challenge, each unique Stark character gains insight. So, bottom line is if Sir Roderick Castle is attacking, he gets insight. And then you throw some low-cost chuds with him, you may be drawing 3 cards off that one military challenge. That's pretty bananas.
If you're throwing other uniques into that challenge with him.
Yeah, and I could easily see Arya, right? Like, that's a really good way to make sure you win that challenge. You stealth out their best guy, you draw 2 cards, bam, you're on your way. It's a pretty great ability, I think. I'm really psyched for this guy.
It's a really strong ability, and it's an ability that Stark really needs. They don't have very good draw as it is, so I think that he could potentially be really good. The Force strength is always a very sort of worrisome strength to have.
Yes.
Because confinement and Dracarys and all of those things that I'm sure everyone's familiar with by now.
Yeah.
But
everything hits him. I would
and
say
for 6 cost. So I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's actually going to be that good.
I would say with the current card pool, he's a one of at least in every Stark deck I ever make.
Yeah.
Once we get the box and that the Stark really gets rounded out, then maybe not. But right now,
Or maybe even more, I'd say, once we get the box.
Yeah, depending on if there's a lot more lower cost chuds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's really good. I'm excited for him, and he's a knight, and it's gonna, with the knight synergy that's coming now, as we'll talk about in the pack. There's a lot of options for him. The scariest thing to me is Dracarys. Like being at 4 is the danger zone because he's no attachments. He can't be hit by the crown, but Dracarys is still looking at him, winking at him, like, "Hey, what's up?"
Especially since you want him to be attacking.
Yeah, right. He's not a guy that gains anything by just chilling. He has to be in challenges, and that's scary.
The thing that worries me is his 6 cost.
Yep.
It's already such a good slot with Robb in Stark, and he isn't a lord, so you can't reduce him with noble cause or anything. So we'll see. He definitely will be in my Stark decks, but I'm not sold yet.
Yeah, he could potentially just get flat replaced by Blackfish from the new box. So we'll have to kind of see. But he is a knight. Like I said, knight synergy is going to be really strong here. So I just put ice on him, and now he's what, a 6? I forget. It's ice a 2 or 3. I think it's 2.
2.
Right? Yeah, so he's a 6 then. No, that's not too bad. Although he has 9 cost if you're just chilling with ice on him.
Yeah.
All right, so the next card is Wolf Dreams. It's 0 cost, event, kneel your faction card, search for a direwolf, reveal it, put it in your hand. I actually like this card a lot.
Yeah, I see such crazy combo potential with this card.
Yeah, I feel like direwolves, shockingly short order, have gone from complete and utter garbage, hampering Stark to the point where Stark fealty is unplayable, to we got Lady, we got the Kennel Master, now we've got Wolf Dreams. Like, Stark direwolves are coming together really fast. I'm really surprised by this.
Yeah, this card makes me so excited to try and pull out some copies of the Wolf's Wood.
Yes.
So that you can do crazy things where they're like, okay, it seems like it's fine. I'll attack with my Tywin for intrigue.
Yep.
You go Wolf Dreams, get a wolf, ambush him in, and do the like Warm Rain. You just killed him out of nowhere.
Yeah, literally out of nowhere. Right? Like, all you have is a Wolf's Wood on the board, and they're like, he plays Wolf's Wood? What the hell's wrong with this guy? Oh, Tywin's dead. That really sucks. Yeah,
it's going to make Stark sitting with gold a lot scarier if this sees play.
Yeah. Even if it doesn't, I feel like it's exists. You have in the back of your mind, Neil's a little bit crazy. Maybe he would do that, right? Like, I'm not expecting Bruno to run this, but this guy is a little bit more Shaga. He might throw out some oddball combo. I'm a little bit nervous about this. He's got a random wolf in his deck. Why is he pulling a pup? Is he doing it to fill out his curve? I don't know. I think there's a lot of interesting things. What really excites me, and this is a little bit of like a secret info that I'm thinking of coming down the pike. But as we get Winter is Coming. What is not Winter is Coming? Bruno's plot.
First Snow.
First Snow. With First Snow coming, being able to ambush in cruddy guys is going to be way more important. Like, there's going to be whole decks that are built around First Snow, bounce all your stuff, do military, kill your guys.
Yeah.
And if you're able to ambush in these cheap direwolves, that's going to help a lot to alleviate those problems. So I feel like direwolves are set up to be pretty good, and anytime you can fetch stuff, even just fetching Lady, Like, if you just had Lady in your deck and you had this card to fetch Lady because it was really critical to get that attachment on, say, Caitlyn, so she can't be hit with a Crown of Gold, like, it can be a very strong card. Anything that is search your whole deck for something decent, I'm happy.
Yeah. Very strong. And 0 is always the best cost for an event.
Yeah, 0 is fantastic. All right. Next up, we've got Sir Hobber Redwine. Try to guess whether you think I like this card, Neil.
I'm guessing you do, because it's another search your entire deck for something decent.
Exactly. Hey, Marjorie, I hear she's good, and only 3 cost. So for 8 cost, I play Sir Robber, and then I follow up with Marjorie. That is fantastic. And if you pair it with Stark, let's say you want to build a Caitlyn Voltron deck. I actually think that's kind of feasible. The only problem is you only have 2 summons. There's no way to guarantee you get Caitlyn. If you really want Caitlyn, play 3 Sir Robbers. You got 6 Caitlyns in your deck. It's pretty darn likely you're going to hit that with a summons, with a draw off the top.
Yeah.
I just feel like any of these search effects really are helpful. I kind of think he's a one of in every single Rose deck. Maybe more depending on how much you need the particular ladies.
I wonder if you can guess what deck I'm thinking of putting him in.
Let's see. What are you going to put him in? I mean, I'm going to say Martell, so you can go get... Oh, no, Nymeria is not a lady,
No, she isn't.
She's just female.
Who cares about Nymeria?
Oh, yeah, what am I thinking? You're really going to go Targ Rose just to be able to get Dany?
Yeah.
Really?
Why not? I'm going to try it.
All right, sure. Go for it, man. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it might be better later with his brother that also stands ladies and stuff like that. But I agree. I think that he is a huge addition to Tyrell as a faction. And another knight, which Tyrell, as we're about to see, is really loving on.
Yeah.
He's a great solid character. Yeah, I like it a lot.
And he fits well in Stark. Stark has both Arya and Sansa and Caitlyn. They're all good ladies. Stark has a lot of knights. Like, I really think
or
Stark Rose Knights build is going to be really strong.
And see, I was thinking a Tyrell Wolf Knights build would be really strong.
Yeah, I mean, I think either direction could work. That's the beauty of him not being loyal. That's so strong. And I'm actually really happy he's not loyal because he does interact so well with different ladies. The only downside to him not being loyal is Rose was already arguably the best banner faction.
Sure.
And they're like, here, they're even better now.
Yeah.
Go play Rose. Like, but I kind of wanted to be Night's Watch. Don't be an idiot. Just play Rose. All right.
Yeah.
All right. My bad.
It's true.
All right. Next card, also Tyrell, not loyal, and it interacts with Knight. So we have the Mare and Heat. It's an attachment. It's 2 costs, so it's a little pricey for an attachment. Well-attached characters attacking or defending. Mare and Heat gains action. Neil, choose a participating character with strength higher than that of the attached character and remove that character from the challenge.
You missed a key word in there.
Oh, yeah? What did I miss?
While attached character is attacking or defending
alone. Oh, did I not say alone?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Alone's really critical. But still, it's pretty dark. Like, it's amazing on Knight of Flowers. If you put it on Knight of Flowers, he wins the challenge. You can only defend with one guy. He comes out if he's more than Knight of Flowers, or they lose because he's the same. So that's pretty fantastic. And you can also do interesting things. Like, Neil, would you be interested in putting this on, say, like a Tumblestone Knight, and then just only attacking with him?
Yeah, it might work. Or be able to just defend with him if they don't have any stealth.
Sure. Yeah,
so it forces your opponent to overcommit to a lot of these challenges where you have a Mare and Heat, so that if you have like a Tumblestone Knight there, then they will have to defend with like 2 strength 3 things.
Yeah, right. And the cool thing is it's non-unique, so you could conceivably your knight could be riding like 3 mares simultaneously. Like, it's
that doesn't seem smart.
Seems amazing, Neil. You stop. But then it also is not terminal, so you can put it on a crappy night knowing he may die, and then it comes back and you can move it around. So I don't know. I think it's another really strong knight card. That this knight's archetype went from non-existent to real deal in one pack.
Oh yeah, Mare and Heat I think is going to be a big part of it. I see a lot of potential in the card for just making challenge math really, really difficult. And so I'm a big fan of the card. I'm looking forward to trying it.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually just bought 3 more core sets. Neil, you know why I bought 3 more core sets? I need more Rose cards. I mean, that's basically the bottom line, is that I wanted to be able to have 2 Rose decks, 2 Lannister decks, maybe 2 Targ decks. And yeah, I mean, they're going to be insane.
That's definitely insane, but do what you got to do.
I'm crazy, Neil. I'm crazy. All right, let's move to Night's Watch. I hear there's still a faction.
Sure. They are. They got 3rd place in Thrones War.
What's really cool, actually, about all the factions with Store Championship season upon us, all the factions seem to be doing okay, except maybe Martell. But
really? Well,
Night's
Martell
Watch,
got
I
second
believe
in
Night's
Thrones
Watch has
War.
won some events.
Well, Martell got 2nd in Thrones War, so I'm not worried about Martell or Night's Watch.
I love how your only data point is you're like, how are they doing overall? I don't care, Tiny. This is how they did in Thrones War. That is the evaluation of how good they are as a house.
That's how they did in a 32-person tournament of some of the best Southern California players.
I mean, I'm not debating you on the issue, actually, Neil. I'm just commenting. I think it's funny. All right. Well, we've got Sir Alistair Thorne, a little bit overcosted, and the same thing as Roderick Castle, 6 cost, Bicon for 4. But his ability's pretty cool. While you're defending player, each Night's Watch character you control gets a military icon. It's going to be darn hard to get unopposed against that when every single person has a military. And then after a military is initiated, you can actually kneel your faction card and pay only 4 gold to stick him into play. I'm not that excited about this guy. He is a knight and a ranger, which are amazing traits, but you played more Night's Watch than I do. What do you think about Alistair?
When I first saw him, I was super excited, but thinking about it more, yeah, he's kind of mediocre. His reaction is definitely nice, but Night's Watch don't have that many other tricks, so it won't be much of a surprise when you're saving 4 gold and he pops into play. It is good because it gets around stealth, but yeah, he's okay. He's better than Jon Snow. He definitely has that going for him.
I don't know. I've seen you wreck some face with Jon Snow.
Yeah, but still. Yeah, I'm not that excited for him. I don't think he's that good.
The fact that he's a knight is great. He could potentially help a knight deck out.
Yeah, Night's Watch has one other non-loyal knight, so I guess that does sort of help.
And then I think farther down the line, this idea of rounding out icons will be helpful. It seems to me that most Night's Watch characters have a military icon that I'm wanting to play already.
Yeah, most of the good ones do.
That's not as relevant now, but I could see him, in a year from now, he's really helping round out the icon pool if there's a lot of characters like, Tarly that doesn't have a military icon in the future. But for now, I guess the bottom line for me is Night's Watch is not a great support house as it is. I don't feel like he's that piece where you're like, oh, that's amazing. Like if you're playing a wall deck, yeah, he fits in there, but he's not exciting on his own to make you think that now it's time to play Night's Watch.
No, but I think that this next card is actually quite exciting for Night's Watch.
Really? The Practice Blade?
Yes. I think that the Practice Blade is much more interesting. If the Practice Blade weren't coming out, I think I would be more excited about Alistair Thorne. But the Practice Blade
you gotta sell me on this one.
The Practice Blade giving someone a military icon is huge in Night's Watch because you think of most of the Night's Watch guys as no attachments. No. Most of them are no attachments except weapon.
Sure.
So the practice blade also giving the +1 strength bump is very relevant in making a lot of their other cards even more playable. Like now the builder becomes another ranging party, and ranging party is already pretty great. The ambush portion is also nice to give Night's Watch a trick, but I think a lot of times people will just pay the 1 cost to get the strength buff, get the icon, and have insane setups. Night's Watch already runs pretty cheap.
Sure.
And having another attachment that you can now set up that also stops all the Greyjoy shenanigans. I think Practice Blade is just a very solid building block for the Night's Watch deck.
I agree with all of that, but to me that doesn't translate into exciting card that I'm really thrilled about. To me it's more like, especially since it only goes on Night's Watch characters, it's more like this is a useful card. If I were to play Night's Watch, I would play this, but it's another card where I'm not like, yes, the Practice Blade, it's time to bust out Night's Watch. They got the Practice Blade, Neil.
Yeah, it's not flashy in the way that would attract someone who doesn't want to play Night's Watch in the first place, but I think that it's exciting for someone like me who already enjoys playing Night's Watch to be like, oh, this is going to make my Night's Watch deck, more competitive now. We can actually do some good stuff.
Is this a card you would plan on playing 3 of, 2 of, or 1 of?
Probably 3 of for now.
Okay. That's fair. Since it sets up, it's only 1 cost. It's non-unique.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what would be really
terminal.
Fun? Oh,
yeah.
Jeez, Neil. I just thought of something great. Your Jon Snow deck? Jon Snow could hold 5 weapons. You could have... Each finger has a weapon now. It's like a whole hand of weapons. I think that would be great.
Okay. Maybe I'll do that.
Man, he would be a big boy.
Yeah, and then get kneeled by Mel, and you're sad.
Dude, seal the hand.
He's not a lord.
He's not a lord, that's right. Poor Jon Snow, he just got wrecked.
Yeah.
Oh, Ned, you and your bastard child. Poor Jon Snow.
Poor Jon Snow.
All right, next card is Moon Boy, and Moon Boy is basically a Baratheon insight card for cheap. I think he is fantastic. Adding insight to your deck for only 2 cost is just amazing.
Interesting. See, now I'm on the other foot where I'm like, yeah, I guess this card is fine. I guess if I was playing Baratheon, I would put a copy in, but I'm not that excited by it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I definitely agree that it's not a card where if you're already not playing Baratheon, you're playing it, but it's really strong. I mean, Baratheon, the more cards Baratheon can get in its mitt, the more opportunities it has to screw you over with R'hllor and game-breaking events, and I just feel like Moon Boy gets you there, and his downside is so small. If you're losing power challenges with him in it, you're kind of an idiot. Like, something really bad must have happened to you already to make that happen. So,
yeah,
it's just, you're not losing power challenges anyway as Baratheon, so his downside to me is almost irrelevant. I really like him. I really like having, especially Baratheon has this problem where it just doesn't quite have enough decent characters at those low cost points to really fill out the deck well. And so I'm real excited to be able to just put 1 Moon Boy in.
Yeah, makes sense.
The new plot, King's Peace. This plot I am wildly unexcited about. A 4/0/1, so it's kind of blah. Like, for those kind of stats, you want to have a really good effect, like get a character of your choice from the top of your deck. That's a baller effect. This is basically, if your opponent wants to do a military or power, they're probably just going to have to kneel their faction card and then do one of the 2. That's not that great. Like, plot effects are incredibly limited. You only have 7 of them in your deck. The reserve value is only 5 because apparently this effect is so amazing. I don't get it, Neil. Am I missing something, or is it just not that good of a plot?
Yeah, if it didn't have the option to kneel the faction card, if it was just you had to pay power.
Yes.
then it would be, whew, that would be
Right.
very good.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I wonder if in playtesting that's where it started and people playtested and said, this is disgustingly broken. You can't do this. Especially, I don't know what the ruling is going to be, but I'm assuming if you don't have a power to move over, then you just can't do these challenges.
Yeah.
And that coupled with the event from the last pack that locks them out of military challenges could quickly spiral into a situation where for 3 straight turns your opponent cannot do military challenges, which would be a real problem. But you're right, like just saying kneel a faction card, it's not like it's a surprise, right? You see it, so you
Yeah.
just don't kneel your faction card.
Yeah, it's not too good. I would be interested to try Baratheon Banner of the Watch to try a wall deck, and this would fit nicely into that.
Sure.
But beyond that, it doesn't seem quite good enough. It's close, but
Yeah.
unless we get a lot more kneel your faction card effects,
Right.
it's meh.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, and especially for being their house plot, right? Like you compare it to Rise of the Kraken or something, or the
Yeah.
Lannister plot, and you're like,
Yeah.
wow, this is just not even in the same ballpark as those plots.
Yep, looks like Martell has a friend with the sad faction plots.
I think the long plan is way better than this plot. Way
I
better.
agree. I think the long plan's pretty solid. compared to
Especially
this.
with the future coming of things like First Snow and Valor and really good effects with low gold. Long Plan's going to be way better with those. King's Peace to me, like you said, I think it will fill a niche role and be okay in that role, but boy, that's a terrible spot to be in for a house plot.
Yeah, that's
I'm
too
kind
bad.
of disgusted by that one, but oh well. All right, so the next card is Sir Gregor Clegane. 1 cost, 10 strength. Boy, he's great.
What? 7 cost.
Oh, 7 cost. That's really expensive, Neil.
Yeah, that is. But you get the mountain that rides.
Yeah, I mean, he's a really interesting card. What's hilarious is his effect is so flashy that I didn't even realize he had renown at first. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, he's kind of weak. But actually, with him having renown, I kind of like him. It's like there's a lot of decks where you just want more renown characters. Renown is such a powerful ability in 2.0 that I'm actually kind of excited to be able to just play him like in a Lanny Rose deck as a one of maybe. I've got quite a bit of money floating around with Tywin already. His effect probably won't do that much, but it's one more guy with renown. Now I have Tywin, Randall, pseudo renown with Jaime, Knight of Flowers, and after they wildfire, I get to drop a Gregor on top of him and have one more renown character.
Yeah. Yeah, he is very expensive
He is that.
for a single icon.
Yeah. He's a really interesting guy because the way I would not think of him is like, who do I put in a deck? Tywin or him? That's not even a discussion, right?
Right.
You're gonna play Tywin. So the question more becomes, does he fit a role in a deck that you're building? So let's say you're playing Night's Watch and you've decided Old Bear is terrible, and so you don't have a 7 cost guy, and you're bannering the Lannister because you want Jaime and Tyrion, and now you have the option of also having a 7 cost guy at the top of the curve. So I think he fits really well in decks like that have a spot for a curve topper.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I do have an interesting idea for a deck that I'll discuss a little later on. But he could also work with, attachments, because he could take a little bird, or even if you're crazy enough to play Noble Lineage to give him a power icon, then you're at, a multiple icon 10 strength.
Yeah.
Hunka change.
I mean, I'm really interested in playing Voltron decks, and I'm trying to figure out the best spot to play one. this dude would make a pretty good Voltron. He's a knight, so he could have... it would be kind of hilarious to put the mayor on him. I'm not sure that would be incredibly relevant. But you could put Seal the Hand on him and Little Bird. Now he can't be hit by tears. He's winning 2 challenges. He has 2 shots at his random ass reaction where if it hits, he just blows up the world. He's, getting 2 renown. He's not loyal, so you could run him with Euron to have another guy pillaging the deck, so you have more shots to get their locations. Come on, Neil, you easily have room for Euron and Gregor.
Of course. Certainly. If you aren't playing him in a deck, though, running those attachments, I think that it won't be too hard for your opponent to, with Nymeria running around or some Neil, just make him useless. So he's such a big, flashy card that it's hard for me to judge yet whether he's going to be insanely good or really not very good.
Yeah, I have a feeling he will be really good in some particular decks. I don't think he's a standard 7 that you drop 3 of in most decks. I think for a lot of decks, for me, it'll be just simply a one-of. Like, if I get Gregor out, that's fine. And if he dies, that's fine, too. It costs me 7, and that sucks. But I'm not building my deck around this guy. And then I think there will be other decks where it's like, I've got Sirio to give him a military if it gets stripped. I've got a Little Bird on him so he can't be Tears. And I've got to Seal the Hand. And there is the possibility, Neil, to do crazy stuff with Banner of the Rose or Rose is your main house and Bear in the Maiden Fair, and you've got him and you've got Tickler, and you can get the jankiest of the jank going.
Yeah.
I would tend, for me personally, I don't think that's going to happen, but who knows? Maybe someone like Neil would be more willing to go down that route.
Maybe. I have another janky idea with him that I'll talk about in a few cards.
Okay.
Because it involves another card in this pack.
Looking forward to it. So the next card we're looking at is a Lannister event. I never bet against my family. And it's 0 cost, Neil. It's your favorite cost point.
Such a good cost.
The problem is, it's not that good. Challenge action, Neil, your faction card. So first of all, that's kind of limiting. Reveal the bottom 5 cards from your deck. You may put 1 unique Lannister character in play for free, and then at the end of the challenges phase, you're going to have to discard it. Cannot be saved. So it's a very limited use of a card. You have to hope that it's a unique Lannister, right? So like if you're bannering to another house especially, and you only have 7 Lannisters in your deck that are unique, I don't know. It just feels real hit or miss, and even when you hit, what are you getting out of it? Like, you better be getting something good with it. It can't just be like, cool, I got Tyrion for a turn and picked up 2 random gold, and I didn't do anything with it, and then I lost my Tyrion. But that's, I don't know. It's real limiting.
Yeah, the only interesting thought I have about this, where it could be a good card in a deck, is if it'll be in the future when Lannister has just way more unique characters, and you can make it much more likely to hit and do some sort of crazy low-cost rush deck where you're playing these, you're cheating in a lot of giant characters for little to no cost with this and the other core set event that no one plays. And so then it would have to be some sort of rush deck that's just drawing cards, not caring about the economy because you're just playing chumps and cheating in giant dudes. But I don't think that the card pool's at a point where that's really possible yet, so
yeah,
I don't think this will be very good for a while.
The other problem with the card is it's a Lannister event, right? They already have treachery. They already have things they do for love. Both amazing. They're probably running Tears because it fits so well in Lannister. They're probably running Hand's Judgment because it's just a really critical meta card. Maybe you're running Put to the Sword to be able to have more targeted kill. Where do you have room for this card, right? It's like,
yeah, like
it just
I said,
isn't impactful enough.
Yeah, I think that it would have to be a real aggressive deck. A lot of those events you mentioned are much more control-heavy events, which I think Lannister plays that style very well right now. But maybe if you get more stuff like Gregor who have such huge benefits potentially from attacking and being really aggressive.
Yeah.
Maybe you just have an aggressive event suite also. But
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a down the road card, and to me, it might be my least. I might even like it less than stuff like King's Peace, because I feel like King's Peace has a niche for it. It's just not a big one. This card, I just feel like, is inferior to other options.
Yeah. Feels a little bit like a Hearthstone card.
That's funny. All right, on to the next card. This may be my favorite card in the pack.
Oh,
The Newly
God.
Made Lord. This
Of
dude
course.
is disgustingly good. I have a deck built for Thursday, for new pack day. Greyjoy, Baratheon, take all your locations, make you cry. And this dude really helps make that deck work. And he's not loyal. That's my favorite part. So that any deck, any metagame, we'll say, where there is a location that's dominating, that's 3 or less, so not the wall, but any other location, you can play the Newly Made Lord, and you have location control built into your deck. I really, really like that about Newly Made Lord. And I think he's going to be fantastic and really warp the meta in a lot of different metas. I'm not sure this is one, but there'll be a lot of metas where it's like, okay, Newly Made Lord is very warping of this metagame.
Yeah, he's definitely a little scary. Especially if you're playing something like Martell. I think that it's very scary that he's now in the meta.
I like your face. You are scared. You're like, oh, I can just see it. My poor Martell, that Gaston Grey gets blown up by this jerk.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how to feel about this card yet. I can see it being huge against certain decks, but against other decks, it'll just sit there in your hand and be awful because 4 cost for just a power icon, not great, even at 4 strength. And so it feels like you have to be at least even or ahead on board to really get away with playing the Newly Made Lord. Otherwise, it feels like unless you have gobs of economy, you're just sacrificing too much tempo to potentially take out a location. They're like, all right, I'll just play more military icons and intrigue icons and wreck everything else.
I do disagree with that statement. I totally agree with the first statement that it's really meta dependent. If you're playing against, say, Lannister, and they've adjusted their deck and they don't have Lannis ports and stuff and they got nothing to blow up, then he's going to be real disappointing in that matchup. But if you're playing a meta where you say you have Greyjoy and there are millions of good locations, or you have Baratheon and the Red Keep, and you have Targ and Plaza of Punishment, I think he's fantastic. I don't think you have to be ahead on board. Like, if I can blow up your Plaza of Punishment so you can't repeatedly kill all of my little guys, hey, that's great. I'm real happy about that. If I can blow up your Red Keep so that you can't keep replenishing and keep drawing those Relore cards, hey, that's fantastic. I'll catch up on board next turn. I think he's
I don't know.
real good.
I think that it's still... I don't think he's going to be as strong as a lot of people, myself included, sort of fear. Because a lot of, like, the Red Keep or the Chamber of the Pain Table, yeah, those are pretty bad. But, like, Greyjoy destroying one of their locations... Greyjoy has like 8 locations. So
yeah, but something like the Seastone Chair, Chair, or the Kraken, they're so fundamental to their game.
Still, I don't think it'll be that punishing. I think when we talk about the Bone Way later, like that's one that I'm terrified of the newly made Lord getting rid of.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Like if I playing a lot of Targ, if he came down and blew up my Plaza, I wouldn't care that much.
Gotcha.
Plaza's a luxury, I think, in Targ decks.
That's fair. What I really like him with is Euron. I feel like it takes Euron from a niche card that was not very good and incredibly high variance. Just, I pillage one card off of your deck. It's not a location. Well, that's great. All right, I'll win an intrigue. Also not a location. Fantastic. I mean, I had a game where I had Euron turn 1. I won like 7 challenges with Euron, pillaged his deck, ripped his whole hand. He never saw a location. Euron sat there, did nothing. Newly made Lord helps activate Euron, and I really like that. That combo and that synergy, I think, is going to be really interesting moving forward. Not just as a power combo, but maybe even as a whole archetype. That's what I'm trying to put together with my Baratheon deck, is a whole archetype that's you have good locations in your deck, especially unique ones that I can steal, put on the board. Now you can't play your Gaston Grey. That was your whole game plan, was to Gaston Grey my Balon. Well, guess what? You can't play one the rest of the game because I'm never using the one I stole from you.
Can't you still play a copy even if your opponent controls it?
No, you cannot.
Really?
The unique rules do not let you play a copy if they already have one of your copies in play.
Really?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting for those decks that are heavily relying on locations. I like your face. Believe me, I looked it up because it is an interesting combination.
Yeah, I don't like that ruling at all.
Yeah, it makes the card way better. So yeah, he's going to be good, and the fact that he's non-unique or non-loyal means he's going to be very interesting. All right, next card, the Fishing Net. Now, the Fishing Net is a non-terminal attachment, so that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
1 cost, attached character cannot be declared as defender. So basically, you put it on a guy they want to defend with. If they decide to kill that guy, since he's useless anyway as a defender, it comes back to you and you move it to another guy. But it's going to be really good for Greyjoy, who wants these unopposed challenges. You put it on the one guy that has stealth, so that now you can stealth the rest of their board. So I say all this, Neil, I'm not sure I'm going to play the card. What do you think of it?
I think it's a really solid card. I think that the most interesting thing about it is that it's a weapon.
Yes, that's true.
I mean, in the future, people have already pointed it out. It's great with the upcoming Greyjoy guy who lets you ambush weapons. But what makes me concerned as a not too strange to Night's Watch is that it's an attachment that can actually hit Night's Watch characters.
Yeah. If I find 3 of them early, your supposed board that can't be taken care of, I hit 3 of your military guys, stealth the other 2. Now your 5-man board doesn't do anything.
Yeah, so it can really hurt a deck if you're playing the wall. If you're not, then maybe it's not as bad, but still, this is definitely a solid attachment that I think will see a good bit of play. Maybe not as a 3 of, but if I were playing Greyjoy, I would certainly throw a couple copies in.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so tough because it's like you could instead play Throwing Axe. I mean, it's like a 1-for-1 trade. Do you want to play that instead? I don't really know. It has anti-synergy with the Sea Stone Chair. If you put it on a guy, now you can't kill him with a Sea Stone Chair because he has an attachment. So, I don't know. I think what's going to happen with me is I'm going to see if people wreck me with this card. And then when they do, I'll go, oh, I was right. It is awesome. But until then, I think I will stick with a statement of something like, it seems like a really good card that I probably won't play. But it doesn't mean I don't think it's good.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move to a really interesting card. The Targ card, the Crone of Vase Dothraki.
Yeah.
She's so interesting because she's not loyal.
Exactly. So this is the card that I was waiting for.
Yeah, and her reaction is after a character is discarded from an opponent's hand, kneel a Dothraki character. So you can kneel her. Like she activates off of herself.
Uh-huh.
That seems to me to be really strong for 2 cost. And she's not unique. So you could, have 3 in your deck, not worry. 1 dies to claim, fine, no problem. I'll just stick another one out later when it's, more useful. I don't know. I feel like this card is going to be quite good.
I agree. So I'm interested in doing a Lannister Banner of the Dragon deck with her really and maybe a few other Dothraki. And you're doing things like using the Tickler and Sir Gregor and the Lannister plot where you're using Cersei and the Lannister plot, so you're discarding 4 cards from their hand. Yeah, you can't use your reaction on all of them probably, but of the 4 that you discard, you get to choose which one she'll react to and just goes in the dead pile.
Yeah, and especially with where the metagame is right now, where there's not a ton of cards yet. Lots of people are running 3-ofs of good cards. They could very easily have something like Dany and Khal Drogo. They have to choose only one they can play this turn. And then now you have that chance to blow up the other one with this 2-cost character.
Yeah.
Like, this is Sir Gregor only on a 2-cost body. I mean, it's just, I don't know. To me, you're right. I had never, ever considered bannering 2 dragon yet. It was always like, there's nothing there that makes me want to ban her to them. And now she alone, you're like, that's pretty promising. Like, as long as I'm winning a random intrigue here and there, I may, hit their most important character and kill it. And you can also then combo her with like heads on spikes and just do this all-out hand destruction dead pile ridiculousness. So I don't know that she's going to be good because the rest of Dragon Banner to me isn't all that impressive yet, but. Boy, as an individual
there's
card.
Some good options, though, I think. I think that it'll be an okay banner, especially for something like Lannister. You can bring Illyrio in.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'll stand more stuff.
So for instance, your Targ Fealty deck, are you just jamming 2 copies of her in there?
For my Targ Fealty deck, I don't know if I would put her in.
Interesting. I think I would. At only 2 cost, I think I would probably say like a Braided Warriors comes out, or maybe 2 for her.
I think I would probably drop at least 1 Handmaiden and maybe 1 Braided Warrior.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's one of the great things about her being at the 2 slot also, is that Targ deck, it's kind of weak at the 2 slot. Like, the Handmaiden's fine, the Braided Warrior's fine, but
Jorah.
she's pretty bonkers. So, yeah.
I mean, at the 2 slot in Targ, you also have Jorah.
Yeah.
You also have the Dragon.
Yeah.
So
the 2
I
slot
think the 2 slot's actually pretty.
So we can go with this though. Then
Targ.
The 2 slot becomes pretty dang strong now for Targ.
Even more so, yeah.
Look at that! I was able to spin my argument into a better argument. Thanks, Neil. Appreciate it.
Anytime.
All right, so now we've got the Silver Steed. This is a warhorse that is unique, so we're only getting one copy out, 1 cost attachment, Dothraki character or Dany only, so it's fairly limiting.
Yeah.
But while it's participating in a power challenge, it gains renown. So that's pretty great. Being able to, we already talked about renown is really strong. Being able to give somebody, like, let's say Dany, maybe you don't have that dragon out and you're giving her renown, and then you're standing her with the standing dragon. That's pretty cool. Give her double renown, Neil. I'm pretty sure if you get double renown, you get 2 points. Take it, Neil. Yeah, unfortunately that won't work. But then there's also the cool reaction. After the attached character gains power using renown, you can sacrifice this horse that only cost you 1 in the first place and initiate another power challenge. I mean, that can be, the tide that wins the game.
Yeah, it can be.
So, I don't know. I'm pretty happy with this horse. Again, I'm not sure I would play it in Targ Fealty because it's pretty tight on slots. But I do theoretically like the card quite a bit.
I don't love it right now. I don't know. I don't see it being very good with the current card pool. Once more Dothraki come out, maybe I'll take another look at it. And anytime Targ gets a new attachment, I always think back to Vace Dothrak.
That's right. You really want to make that work.
I really want to make that work.
Good luck with that, Neil. Can't wait until the day when that's the meta. And you're like, I did it, guys. I did it. I finally did it 3 years later. Are you all amazed?
Yeah, so it helps as another attachment towards that, and I like it in that aspect, but I'm not going to be playing this right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think what Targ is not trying to do is power rush, right? It's more controlling the board state with Dracarys, Khal Drogo, Plaza of Punishment. It doesn't fit that archetype particularly well, so it'll be interesting. We have another thing that looks like a warhorse that is not. That's a tainted Martell attachment. Basically remove an intrigue icon and allow somebody to be tiersed. Problem is, Nymeria already does this. Confiscation already does this. What do you think, Neil? Do you have room for a card you can't set up for 1 cost to pull off an intrigue icon? Is it that valuable?
Oh, you meant confinement, not
What did I say?
confiscation.
Yes, not confiscation. I meant confinement for sure.
I think that this is a pretty solid card, especially because it's non-terminal.
That's true. Yeah, the non-terminal
So,
definitely makes it more reasonable.
non-terminal makes it pretty reasonable. Yeah, I think it's a solid card. I think that it'll be not played a whole lot until the other two versions of it for the other icons come out. Once we see all three, then I think that there's going to be a really interesting deck there that's playing a ton of these attachments, maybe out of Targ with Vase Dothrak.
Oh, God.
And just stripping all of the icons from your opponent's characters.
Yeah. I mean, it's not unique, right? So you could literally like strip all their. You could go all 9 of these attachments, strip 9 icons. Then you could play confinement. Then you can Nymeria. You're taking so many icons. Their head is spinning.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that means your deck is full of these marginal cards.
Yeah, because they're opponent's characters only, you can't set them up, which really could lead to some very clunky setups.
Yeah, I personally am not a big fan of it currently. I mean, there's a chance because there's so much potential for icon removal that you could just do some really disgusting things with some sort of stall deck, whether that be the wall or something else, and just go ahead, man. Let's see you make challenges with the one dude you have left who still has icons. Like, I think there's some crazy upside there, but I don't know. It's not something where I'm immediately drawn to it. It feels like a distant opportunity and one that's probably not that great. The next card is the Boneway. I've seen people really not like the Boneway. I kind of like the Boneway.
I really like the Boneway.
I mean, so the downside, of course, is you have to lose 6 challenges, but it can be offensive or defensive, right?
And it can be over multiple turns.
Right, like if you don't lose 6 challenges for the game, you win the game, right? Like, you win the game at that point. Great, good job. What I really want to see this in is either some sort of wall stall deck, and this is a great closer for that, or what I've been kind of looking at, which is like a Viper Voltron deck, where from turn 1, instead of doing this thing where like with Doran late game I'll start pumping him, no, turn 1 you put Seal the Hand on the guy and you're already trying to pump out maybe 1 or 2 power on him every turn. If he loses some of his challenges, the Boneway starts stacking up. Maybe over the first, say, 5 turns, you get 2 Boneways off. I mean, it could be pretty great. The problem is if they treachery it, boy, that will be disappointing.
Yeah, that's true. I like the Boneway a lot. Like you were kind of pointing towards, it doesn't really have much of a downside other than you have to pay 2 and put it into play. Yeah. It's sort of free power. I don't think that I would, for most of the game having the Boneway in play, you just remember to trigger it, but you don't play any differently, really.
Right.
But then, once it gets to like 4 or 5 tokens on it, then you maybe remind your opponent that it's there, and now they have to really think like, do I really want to win that challenge and give him 3 power?
Right,
like, he's already at 11 power.
That's true.
That'll almost win the game for him. How can I make these challenges but not win, but still win, but oh God.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. To me, the downside of it is that it is 2 costs, which means it's Sunspear, Gaston Grey. You're probably not playing like 3 of each of those, so at that point, it's like, what's getting cut? I generally go 3 Gaston Grey, 2 Sunspear. Am I going 1 Spear, 1 Boneway? The downside of Boneway is if you get it turn 5, it's kind of pointless. Like, you need it early, so it makes me think you want to run 2 or 3. But if you're playing it how you're talking about, where you're not like playing around it, it's just there, then do you really want to run 2 or 3? Not really. So for me, it feels a little bit different in that you kind of want to build around it, and I think you can, but it's going to be more of a power rush deck that we haven't really seen that much out of Martell, but I think it's a possibility.
Yeah, I'm planning on putting 2 into my Martell deck. I think that it's a solid card, especially with a card coming a little later in this review.
Okay, fair enough. We'll wait on that. The spoiler for that is overwhelming me, but okay. All right, let's move on to the Hedge Knight. So the Hedge Knight is pretty awesome, actually, because if you look through the neutral cards, Neil, are there any 2-cost neutrals?
Not even close.
Yes, there are not. So this is just, if he was like 2-cost Bicon for 2, no text, he'd be decent. It'd be like, oh, he's not going to go in most decks, but I have this option. I have this dude that if I need a cheap chud for claim out of a neutral faction, I can do that. But he's not nothing. He is a knight, Neil. He fits into this glorious knight package. If you have another knight on the table, he gets a power icon. He gets another strength. So now he's 2-cost Bicon for 3, which is pretty strong. Activating knight effects. He's really going to be just a staple of knight decks.
Yeah, I feel like a 2-cost neutral unit that's decent, like him, is just kind of a sigh of relief for deck builders. Now there's just this easy option you can go to if you're playing a faction that just is lacking a little bit in the lower curve. You don't have to banner just to fill out your curve. Right. Now you can play a few more neutral cards, and maybe you can't fealty, but you can make it work with just one faction, maybe.
Yeah, and that's the really other interesting thing about this pack is that in the past you might have said, well, you're not going to be able to do that anyway, because if you're not bannering, then you're fealty, and you won't have room for him anyway. But as we're going to see in a minute, there's a new agenda that might replace fealty for a lot of these independent decks.
It's going to be very interesting.
Now Hedge Knight fits real well in there. All right, so let's look at the attachment.
So many attachments this pack.
Knighted. Yeah, I like that. So that's a whole episode that we'll talk about another time. But 2.0 and attachments is so different. Yeah. As a 1.0 player, like for the first 2 months I played this game, I looked to see all the hand and went, that card is garbage. It's literal garbage. It's a 3-cost attachment. We all know how vulnerable attachments are. And now it's like, yeah, no, Sealed Hand's awesome. I was so wrong. I just couldn't divorce myself from this concept from 1.0 that attachments are bad. It took me 2 to 3 months to really get it through my head that they're good. And really, people like you wrecking me with them to where I'm like, what? Neil's playing such bad cards and it's beating me? I don't understand. Yeah, so here we have one. Attached character gets +1 strength and the knight trait. So here you go. You don't have quite enough knights in your deck? There you go. Put an attachment on it. Seastone Chair doesn't hit it. The Greyjoy Boat doesn't hit it. He's plus strength. Everything is great for you.
Yeah, I love this. This does feel sort of like the attachment version of the Hedge Knight, where it can just fill in gaps in a lot of decks where if you're like, oh man, I really need some positive attachments to deal with Greyjoy and a little bit of a strength boost. Yeah. Now you have a pretty solid neutral card that is admittedly much better with all of the knight synergies, but could still be a fine stopgap until we get an even broader card pool. And 1 cost is great, non-terminal. I'm really looking forward to knighting a lot of the ladies when I make a knight deck.
Caitlyn.
Have like Caitlyn or Sansa or Arya become a knight.
Yeah, I mean, Caitlyn going to 5 strength is huge. Yeah. It's so huge. So yeah, I really like this card. I feel like because there's already a lot of knight synergy, obviously I'm not just going to randomly jam it into decks, but I feel like I'm real interested in a Voltron deck right now until First Snow hits, and I think this card is fantastic for a Voltron deck because it gives your Voltron guy something more to it. Now it's a knight also, and it can interact with plots that are helping it survive as a Voltron character, because now it can't be hit by events because it has knighted on it, so they have to deal with knighted first before they can deal with it. And it's just so many options that a card like this gives. It's not one of those cards that just going to be ubiquitous and has a ridiculous power level. But like you said, it's a great toolbox card to have in the card pool where there's a lot of different decks that will be able to use it. I'm real excited about it.
And just a quick note for anyone newer who may be watching, a Voltron deck is a deck where you're really putting all of your eggs and making one super character with all of these attachments and synergies and stuff so that that one character just wins you the entire game.
Yeah, and it's the difference between 2.0 and 1.0 with Voltron, guys, is 1.0, everybody dies. That's just a mantra. Even if you have a triple duped Red Viper turn 1, odds are he dies. In 2.0, if you have a triple duped character with a high enough strength to be out of Dracarys range, that character's not dying, almost assuredly. Maybe a Gaston Grey will be able to bounce them and deal with them that way, but it's really limited scenarios that are able to deal with them. So I'm much more excited about this opportunity of making a Voltron guy, then putting Seal of the Hand on it, so you're getting 2 challenges with the person, as long as they have a flashy effect when they attack, whether that be Queen of Thorns putting a guy in, Euron stealing other locations, Red Viper just piling up piles of power. This is really intriguing to me, much more so than in 1.0. In 1.0, it felt like all your eggs are in the basket, and the basket's got a hole in it, and we all know it. It's just a matter of whether you stumble into the hole. 2.0 feels like you can make these guys safer, and because the cost curves are so much higher, you can have multiple guys in the deck that you're comfortable making that Voltron character out of, and that's also a different idea. That's probably a whole nother episode, is talking about Voltrons and who's most eligible for that status.
Yeah, I look forward to that episode once we get some more games in trying to figure out that sort of deck type.
Exactly. I think that's what I'll do this week with my 6 core sets, Neil. All right. Next card, Tourney for the Hand. We've already alluded to this. And this is the new plot that really makes the Knights deck tick. It is not limit 1, which is fantastic. So you really can build around the Knights theme and have this plot be the anchor. And Neil, I love that it's only 3 gold because the effect is so good. You gain renown, you get immune to opponent's offense, but because it's only 3 gold, you have to set up a little bit. You can't just be turn 1, booyah, turn 2, booyah, I win. Like, that's probably not going to happen. You need a turn or 2 to set up, then you go with these plots to really close it out.
Yeah, I agree. It's a potentially amazing closer plot if you've set up like 5 knights on the board.
Oh, yeah.
And you just do a power challenge with all of them, and you get like 6 power.
Yep. And then you come back the next turn with the same dang plot, and they're like, you're kidding me.
My question is, do you think with its limited gold, only 3 gold, can you run 2 of it? I'm kind of questioning whether or not you can actually, in good conscience, run 2 copies of Attorney for the King and have it work.
I'm not sure on that yet. I think my first Knight deck will probably run 2. See, this is more of a 1.0 mentality of when you have these decks that are like this, you want 2 because in 1.0 the card pool was so big that they could have some answer quite easily and bone your plot, and you needed another bite at the apple. In 2.0, it feels like there's the plot where you have to win an intrigue first, and that can really hurt you, but that's about the only plot that's really going to be a problem, because something even like Calm Over Westeros, maybe they can't pull a power off your house that turn, but it doesn't stop them from piling renown up on their guys.
Yeah.
Maybe Fortified Position, if that comes in the meta really hard, you'd want to.
Even then, Fortified Position only blanks the printed text. It doesn't get rid of the renown that this plot gives them.
So maybe in 2.0, 1's okay. The other thing is, and this is what I really love about this, is that Wildfire and Knights, they really have an interesting interaction. Because this is only 3 gold, you can't go for it right away and go like plot 1 and plot 2. So your opponent sees, right? They're like, okay, he's got 5 Knights on the board. I'm not an idiot. I know what plot you're working towards. So, boom, Wildfire. And you flip your tourney. Yes, I got this turn, game 1 right here. Oh, my Knights are dead? Yeah. Son of a... And I think that interaction is going to be really interesting. Like, trying to figure out how long can I wait to play this plot before they're going to Wildfire.
I do think it's going to be for a rush deck, and I think you're maybe going to need to rush to play the rush deck because I think that First Snow of Winter
Yeah.
will just be another plot that completely bones this sort of deck if you're running a bunch of Hedge Knights
Yeah.
and Tumblestone Knights and Red Wine Knights. And you're like, okay, here's my big renown turn.
Yep.
Oh, all of those guys are back in hand.
Yeah. I mean, First Snow of Winter will fundamentally change everything about this game.
Yes.
It is going to be like people talk about Valor, and when Valor comes in, and yeah, that's going to be big. But First Snow is on par with that. It is going to be like, just think about the changes. Like right now, you play your big guy and a couple chuds to kill. Well, guess what? Your chuds are dead now. Your big guy is vulnerable on any random turn. It's going to really alter how people think about the game. Suddenly, ambush becomes insanely valuable. But we'll get to that when we get there. So basically, Tourney of the King. I think you're right. The real question is not do you run one in your Knights deck. It's do you run two. My gut tells me yes. That might
My
be wrong.
gut tells me no.
Yeah,
We'll
so that'll
see
be
who's
interesting.
right.
So we'll probably each build one for Thursday. I'll have two. You'll have one. We'll see who's right. All right. The last card of the pack is also another really exciting card because it gives lots of decks a new choice.
Yeah.
And that's the Lord of the Crossing. And it's basically you need to have a deck that can run 3 challenges because in the first challenge, everyone's going to be down a strength. But in the last challenge, everyone is up 2 strength. If you win the challenge, gain a power for your faction. So you know who loves this, Neil, is a Viper Voltron deck. So
Yeah,
every single turn you're getting, let's say you attack with 3 guys or something, it's plus 6 strength. Right there is already a power. Plus you get another power just for winning. A power can pile up real fast with the Viper. Does the Viper suddenly become good, Neil? Am I crazy?
I think that Martell gets a huge boost from this agenda. I think that they're going to be one of the top houses to play this agenda out of, not only because of the Viper really benefiting from that increased strength, but they have a pretty good icon spread to begin with, and they have plenty of win by losing effects, like the Bone Weight. You're often going to be losing that first challenge where you get -1 strength. There's a Bone Weight token.
Yep.
You're often going to need to be very aggressive to get in all 3 challenges. That's fine. You have Gaston Grey to protect you.
Yeah.
Or Sunspear if they're going first. Yeah, come right in. I'm going to do that challenge that you just did last so that I get a billion power for it and get my 2 claim.
Yep. Yeah. The one downside, of course, is, at least my feeling is, Martell without a banner is top 2 weakest as far as just not having that plethora of good cards. Like, I'd be more comfortable playing this out of Lannister, where it's like, all right, I've got a million good cards. I'm not worried. I've got good costed cards at every slot. Martell, to me, is like, Doran at 6 is not great. Viper.
Doran's not terrible.
In this deck, he seems like he's going to be good, but he's not quite as impactful as something like Tywin. So it'll be interesting. I think what will really help is guys like Arya Hota will really shine in a deck like this, where just chucking him into a challenge by himself, he's got a heck of a lot of strength. Even at -1, that's not that bad. If you put him in that challenge with the Viper, suddenly just those 2 are... is the Viper's strength 7?
He is.
Oh my goodness. So the Viper's 9 and Hota's 7. Right there is 16 if it's unopposed. That's 4 power you get for winning a military. I mean, the upside of it seems really high. What other decks would you be interested in running with this agenda?
I'm thinking of making a Night's Watch deck, non-wall, because Night's Watch can just swarm a lot of dudes so they can have a lot of icons on the board and get off those challenges.
Jon Snow, Voltron, 19 weapons.
Maybe Jon Snow actually goes in a Lord of the Crossing deck because
I think he
you're gonna be
does. I
attacking
think he
so
would be
much.
great in it.
Yeah, so I'm thinking Night's Watch. Those were my first 2 thoughts for them. Lannister's probably fine.
Yeah, I like Lannister. But I like Lannister with Rose so much, it's hard for me to do that. What about Targ? So Targ's already fealty. Do you want to give up the $1 a turn for more power?
It's tough. I don't think so.
I agree.
Not at this point.
I think the most powerful thing of all about Targ is not that they have Dracarys, it's that they have $1 and a card in hand. And so, at least the way I play Targ is I'm always, literally every turn, if I have a card in my hand, which I do because that's how I play Targ, I always save $1. And so having fealty really helps with at least how I play Targ.
I agree. And Targ has so many high cost characters that are loyal and great events that are one cost that are loyal that fealty really helps them a lot. I think Lord of the Crossing really helps Martell because it gives them some more power gain, which they desperately need.
I think
Same
Greyjoy might be pretty darn good with it as well. You'd probably want to slip a couple more intrigue guys into that deck, and that may be where it all falls apart, that maybe you just can't. Maybe you're forced to play little birds in that deck and you don't really want to. But once Greyjoy rounds out a little bit, at some point they'll get some more intrigue guys. At that point, I think it would be a really strong choice for Greyjoy.
I also see an outside chance of it being pretty good for Tyrell.
Yeah, I could see that.
They have a lot of decent mid to low cost characters, and they have some pretty good tricks for either like standing Randall Tarley a bunch or doing something like the ambush girl, who then you get to do another challenge so that your third challenge doesn't necessarily have to be intrigue or power or whatever you can't do.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually really like the idea of playing it in rows. With Randy, of course, it helps a lot because he's standing then. After your third challenge, he stands up for defense if you go first. That can be quite great. And I like it with a Rose Knights deck, a Tyrell Knights deck, because then you have, like, we are already trying to rush with the Knights theme, and this is just one more layer of rush, right? It's one more power a turn, limiting the amount of turns. Now we're looking at, like, turn 3 is real viable to win. And I think that could be really strong.
Yeah, and with all of their rush cards like Lady Sansa's Rose, it definitely could get there. I think it'll be similar to Greyjoy, though, where gonna have to see if they can actually get the icons on the board for all 3 challenges most of the time.
So I think what we're realizing here, Neil, is I need 3 more cores. Because I have my Lanny Rose, I have my Stark Rose, and now I want Tyrell Lord of the Crossing. Neil, I need a moment. I got to go to Amazon and get 3 more. Now, just to be clear on that, the first 3 I bought from my local friendly game store. But when I go for a course that's 4 through 6, a guy's got to save some money somewhere.
When you go insane.
Yeah. I ain't made of money. And, if we had 20,000 people watching this, Neil, then it'd be another story. All right, Neil, so who do you think is, let's start with the big winner in this chapter pack?
Oh boy, the big winner.
Yeah, I haven't thought about this yet, so there's so many winners. My goodness. This is a good pack.
I think my 2 choices, I think that Martell is a big winner. I personally think the Bone Way is fantastic. And I think that the Lord of the Crossing is going to be real good out of Martell. But I think that overall for me, the biggest winner is Tyrell. Okay. I think that this Knights theme I think that main house Tyrell was kind of unplayable before this pack. I could never win with it, but I think that now it'll be a real deck. It'll be a great rush deck once we kind of figure out the balance of how many knights, how many ladies, how you build it. But I think that Tyrell is maybe now a pretty decent main house, and they get even better as a support house.
Yeah, it's funny because you say the Tyrell Knights deck. I think the real Knights deck is Tyrell with somebody, so you have more Knights, like probably Stark, so you get the Tumblestone Knights. So I actually think that I agree that Tyrell is a big winner, but I think it's continuing their tradition as an amazing support house. Tyrell is probably a good main house, but it's just their support cards. So many awesome cards are not loyal that you're just kind of like, okay, well, I could get Queen of Thorns, or I could get 17 awesome Lannister cards. I just can't I can't make that decision. I have to go with this other house. So I agree. I think Tyrell's a huge winner. After that, it's a lot harder for me. I really like Newly Made Lord, but I'm not sure that makes Greyjoy a huge winner. I feel like all the houses get a card that is helpful. Maybe I'll go with Stark as the other big winner. I think Wolfstream is really good. I really think Roderick Castle is what this deck needed for now. It just so desperately needed draw. I don't know. I mean, I may just put 3 of them in for a little while and test it and try to do
probably what I'll
Roderick
try.
Arya every turn, 2 draw. I mean, that sounds disgusting to me. If you could get 2 draw every turn from Stark, I'm not sure Stark could lose. So that's pretty good. Who's the big loser for you in this pack?
For me, the big loser, I think, has to be Baratheon. I'm not a big fan of Moonboy. I don't think he's that great. And we kind of agreed that the King's Peace is not a very exciting, especially for your faction plot.
Yeah. For me, if I'm just looking at Martell cards, I'm going to say Martell. I think you're right in that Lord of the Crossing makes Martell better. And that's what I love so much about this pack, is that I don't actually think there are any losers, because you have a Knights theme that is portable into all houses. You have Lord of the Crossing, which is portable into all houses. You have a whole bunch of really impactful non-loyal cards, like the Newly Made Lord and both Tyrell cards and the Crone. Like, I feel like this pack is just a winning pack, and that it gives so many new archetypes life for now until, the first snow winter comes in and crushes everyone's face in. But
damn you,
for
Bruno!
now, Bruno always destroying my life, whether it be in tournaments or in card design. Bruno's always screwing me over. But yeah, I'm really impressed overall with these packs. And I'm going to make a comparison that's maybe not fair, but to me, when the Conquest core came out, it was the best core that I had seen FFG make, and I was very impressed with the game. And then over the next 4 packs, it was like, these don't really impact the meta that much. They help factions that were unplayable to make them sort of playable, but the top deck is still there. And I feel like with Game of Thrones, these packs have all been really impactful. And that's how you should do it. When you have a small card pool, packs should come out and boosh! The meta blows up for 2 weeks while everyone recovers and figures out, oh my, what is happening? There's all these new archetypes and cards. Oh my goodness, the next month First Snow comes out, blows everything up again. I really like this pack. I think it's a fantastic
It's going to be
pack.
really exciting, and what I'm also very excited for is the pack comes out this Thursday. This Saturday, 2 days after it comes out, Game Empire Pasadena is having its store championship. This pack will be legal as long as it's in stores.
Boy, I really want to do that tournament. I don't think I'm going to be able to, but I'm going to be sad.
Hold on to your butts. It's going to be something else.
It's going to be kind of crazy. You want to go on a limb right now and predict what you're going to be playing in Pasadena?
I'm going to try and find a Lord of the Crossing deck out of probably out of Martell, maybe Night's Watch. That's what I'm going to be trying to figure out this week.
Okay. Are you going to be running as a rush deck or more of just a power that just comes every turn?
More of a just power that comes every turn, certainly out of those. You have me thinking, though, about maybe a Tyrell version of that with the Knights to rush it. So, I don't know. I want to see if I can, day 3, make this new agenda a winner. Yeah,
that would be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be, over the next several weeks, we're going to see a lot of people. I invented a new deck. The Greyjoy Barra Grimy Location Grabber. And stuff like that. And some guy will win a store championship, and it'll be the new flavor of the month. So it's going to be really exciting. We've got a lot of archetypes. Knights, Lord of the Crossing, Voltron decks, all kinds of stuff's coming into play. So I'm excited. Whether or not I get to make the tournament, I'm still excited just to be able to play with a whole bunch of new stuff.
Me too.
All right, well, thanks so much for coming by. Another episode of Summer is Coming. We'll be back shortly with some new decks, archetypes, and talking about what we've been up to. Because both Neil and I have a lot of ideas for this next week. So the brain's going to be percolating.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
All right, I think that's pretty good.
Oh, I thought that was great.